The late autumn air in Chicago carried a biting cold that seemed to seep into the very soul of the city. But inside luxury motors, the atmosphere was one of artificial warmth, emanating from the polished gleam of luxury cars and the calculated smiles of the salespeople. Each vehicle, a mechanical work of art, vied for the attention of the wealthy gazes that crossed the threshold. The soft ambient music, the scent of new leather and fresh coffee, everything there seemed orchestrated to seduce and impress. It was a sanctuary for opulence, a stage where status was displayed and validated. It was into this meticulously staged setting that Lauren Thorne stepped, her presence discreet, almost a counterpoint to the surrounding extravagance. She wore a perfectly tailored suit, but without ostentation, its neutral tones highlighting a minimalist elegance. Her dark hair, usually pulled back in a severe bun, fell loosely over her shoulders, adding a touch of spontaneity. Thin-rimmed glasses rested on her nose, and she carried only a simple leather briefcase, without the shine of an apparent brand name. To the trained and prejudiced eyes of the luxury motor sales team, Lauren didn't fit the profile. She didn't scream wealth, didn't exude the idealized image of a luxury car buyer. The general perception was clear and silent. She was an intruder, someone who was perhaps there by mistake, or maybe just to look. Lauren walked slowly through the showroom, her eyes scanning the models with an intensity that denoted knowledge, not just casual curiosity. She paused before a state-of-the-art electric SUV whose technology and design intrigued her. Her hand hovered over the hood, an almost reverent movement. No one approached her. Salespeople walked by, cast quick glances, and looked away. The initial indifference began to be tinged with a subtle, almost inaudible contempt. Mark, a salesman with an overly white smile and an arrogant posture, was a few feet away, gesticulating to an elderly couple. He picked up a brochure from one of the cars and, as he passed Lauren, accidentally dropped it at her feet. Lauren looked at him, and he merely shrugged, a mocking smile on his lips. "Oops, how clumsy of me," he muttered, with no intention of picking it up. Lauren picked it up herself, with a calmness that disarmed the provocation's intent. Minutes later, Sarah, a salesperson with impeccable makeup and a shrill voice, approached Lauren. "Ma'am, are you lost?" she asked, with a tone that was not of concern, but of condescension. "I can help you find the exit if you need." Sarah stared at her, a glint in her eyes that Sarah couldn't decipher. "No, thank you. I'm exactly where I want to be," Lauren replied, her voice soft but firm. Sarah forced a smile and walked away, gossiping with Brian, the sales manager, who looked at her with an expression of silent disapproval. Brian, the manager, a corpulent man with an inflated sense of his own importance, was busy on the phone. He observed Lauren from afar, skepticism stamped on his face. When Lauren approached a Mercedes-Benz convertible, Brian, without hanging up the call, gave a loud cough. "Ma'am, please, don't touch the vehicles if you're not a serious customer. We have to maintain the integrity of our products," he fired, his voice muffled by the phone, but still audible. The phrase was a warning, a veiled humiliation for her to know her place. Lauren, however, simply removed her hand and continued to observe the car, her composure unshaken. Time dragged on. 25 minutes of pure invisibility, tempered by these small stings of contempt. Lauren, the CEO behind the Thorne Innovations Group, which encompassed luxury motors and a vast range of other billionaire companies, was there, subjected to an unintentional test of her own corporation. What she saw was a distorted reflection of her own values. It was then that Aaron, a young salesman in his first month at the dealership, noticed Lauren. He didn't have the rehearsed politeness or cynicism of his colleagues. He simply saw a person standing alone, admiring a car. With a mix of nervousness and a genuine desire to help, Aaron approached. "Good afternoon, ma'am. Can I help you with anything?" he asked, his voice a little hesitant but sincere. Lauren turned, a slight smile appearing on her lips. She felt the authenticity in Aaron's approach. "Good afternoon. I'm interested in this model. Could you give me more details?" Aaron, feeling valued, began to describe the SUV's features with contagious enthusiasm. He talked about the electric motor, the range, the safety features, the cutting-edge technology. As Aaron spoke, a murmur began among the other salespeople. "Look at Aaron, wasting time with the tourist," Mark whispered to Sarah, who chuckled softly. Suddenly, the dealership door opened with dramatic urgency. Mr. Harrison, the regional manager of Thorne Innovations, entered, pale and with sweat beading on his forehead. His eyes swept the showroom in a panic, stopping abruptly at Lauren, who was facing away, talking to Aaron. The shock on his face was undisguised. "Miss Thorne!" Mr. Harrison's exclamation echoed through the showroom, cutting through the ambient music and paralyzing all the salespeople. Brian, who was laughing at a joke from Mark, choked and dropped his tablet. Mark and Sarah paled, the blood draining from their faces. Lauren turned slowly, an ironic smile playing on her lips. She had anticipated this moment. "Mr. Harrison, what a pleasant surprise," she said, her voice full of double meaning that only he at that moment would fully understand. Mr. Harrison, now taking hurried, clumsy steps, rushed to her, his voice low and laden with despair. "Miss Thorne, what an unexpected honor! Had we been informed of your visit, we would have prepared a reception." He trailed off, the words dying in his throat as he caught Lauren's icy gaze. Lauren raised a hand, silencing him. "Don't worry, Mr. Harrison. I prefer my visits without fanfare. That way I get a more authentic view of the operation." Her eyes swept the room again, lingering on Mark, Sarah, and finally on Brian, who now seemed on the verge of fainting. The silence that settled was heavy, charged with guilt and panic. "Ilan," Lauren said, her voice clear and firm, completely ignoring the other salespeople who were trying to approach with excuses already formulated in their minds. "Thank you for your time and attention. I'd like to close the deal for this car. And please also prepare the papers for 2 more executive sedans and a sports vehicle, models I saw in our online catalog that would be ideal for the director's fleet." Ilan's eyes widened. 4 luxury cars, his biggest deal perhaps of his entire life. He just nodded, stunned and emotional. Mr. Harrison, quickly regaining his composure, smiled at Ilan. "Excellent choice, Miss Thorne. Ilan is one of our most promising young talents. He will attend to you with the attention you deserve." He cast a deadly look at Brian, who seemed to have shrunk in size. Lauren smiled at Aaron, a genuine smile this time. "He already has, Mr. Harrison, unlike some of his colleagues." The phrase, spoken with a sweetness that hit a sharp blade, hit Mark, Sarah, and Brian like an electric shock. Mark, Sarah, and Brian tried to approach, with expressions of desperation and regret. "Miss Thorne, I'm so sorry. There's been a terrible misunderstanding," Brian stammered, sweat dripping down his forehead. Sarah tried to force a smile, but her lips trembled. "We had no idea." Lauren, however, didn't even look at them. She turned to Mr. Harrison and Aaron. "Mr. Harrison," Lauren began, her voice now more serious, "I'd like a meeting with you and Aaron tomorrow morning. We need to discuss not only sales, but also customer service policies, staff training, and, fundamentally, the culture of inclusion across all our dealerships. Aaron, I'd like your perspective on what we witnessed today, and your ideas for improvements." Aaron, still processing the magnitude of the situation, nodded vigorously, the promise of an incredible opportunity shining in his eyes. Mr. Harrison, in turn, was grateful for the chance to rectify the error and knew that Aaron's promotion was the only right thing to do. As Lauren walked away, accompanied by Mr. Harrison and an ecstatic Aaron, the luxury motors showroom was in a heavy, deafening silence. The salespeople's gazes, once full of contempt, were now filled with bitter regret and palpable dread. They had judged a woman by her appearance, by her race, and the consequences would be severe. Mr. Harrison was already mentally restructuring the sales team, with Aaron in a prominent position, and others would have to face the consequences of their actions. The Chicago winter continued to blow, but inside the dealership, the storm of prejudice had been confronted. And for those who had behaved so poorly, the price of Lauren Thorne's invisibility would indeed be unforgettable. The lesson was clear. In a world where power can manifest in the most unexpected ways, judging a book by its cover was a luxury no one could afford. 6 months had passed since Lauren Thorne's unexpected visit to Luxury Motors. What seemed to be just a fateful day had become a turning point for many at the dealership. Efren, with his work ethic and the trust placed in him by Lauren, rose rapidly. That meeting with the CEO and Mr. Harrison was just the beginning of a series of initiatives he helped implement, and in a short time, his vision and dedication earned him the coveted position of Director of Customer Experience for the Thorne Innovations Group, a newly created role that allowed him to shape the service culture across all units. For Brian, the manager who ignored Lauren, the consequences were severe and direct. Complaints about his behavior, already existing before Lauren's visit, multiplied after the internal audit driven by the CEO. His negligence and prejudiced attitude became unsustainable, and he was unceremoniously dismissed, a clear example that the old guard would not be tolerated in the company's new era. Sarah, on the other hand, showed a capacity for adaptation. Faced with the new and rigorous customer service policy and Brian's departure, she began to reevaluate her own attitudes. Although she still struggled with some ingrained prejudices, her sales performance improved, and she demonstrated a genuine effort to be more attentive and professional with all clients, regardless of their appearance. As for Mark, he still wandered the halls of Luxury Motors, visibly embittered. Unable to accept that his lack of foresight and his disdain had prevented him from recognizing the opportunity, he continued to murmur about Efren's absurd luck, never understanding that the true luck had been the young salesman's character and authenticity. That day, for Mark, would be a wound that time seemed unable to heal. If you enjoyed this story, don't forget to like, subscribe, and share. It really helps us keep bringing you more.